Well, South Africa is investigating how 17 of its citizens aged between 20 and 39 ended up fighting in Ukraine's Donbas region after being lured with promises of lucrative work. They sent distress calls asking to return home, and it is unclear which side they were fighting for. Now, the government has launched an inquiry into the recruitment and involvement in what it calls seemingly mercenary activities, while neither Russia nor Ukraine has publicly confirmed or denied the report. So we are joined by Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator at ENACT Program Institute for Security Studies. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the show.
Good evening to you.
Now, was it not already an open secret that African nationals were joining mercenary forces in the Russian-Ukraine conflict?
Yeah, I think we should start off by just saying this is still an unfolding story. So information is coming in as we speak. So if you look back at the situation in Ukraine, we see that several people from Kenya have been arrested and were sent there. There was also some speculation or some reports about people from Cameroon, but also as far south as Zambia. There were some people. There was actually one of the people that were killed that were actually recruited to fight on the Russian side. Now, what is happening there, and this is just why this is actually important for us. We see that there's a tactic that is being used by the Russian side, where they recruit people even from prison, and then they train them for 2 to 3 weeks to become soldiers, and then they send them to the front, and they send in wave after wave after wave. We see that quite a few thousand North Korean troops have already died there with them. So the casualty rate is extremely high, especially in the area, in the Donbas area where these people have been deployed. So their chances of survival are actually very slim. Hence we saw the plea for assistance from South Africa, and in the meantime it turned out, and that was also that actually broke yesterday, that it seems that the MKP, or that the Mkhonto weSizwe party of former President Jacob Zuma, they actually recruited the people and sent them there under the pretext that they are going to receive bodyguard training, or personal protection training. So, and at the end of the day, it ended up that these people were sent to a military camp. They were trained to war, and then they were sent off to the Donbas, where they were deployed at the front, facing these Ukrainian soldiers.
Now, Willem, it's been argued that the use of probably prisoners or foreign nationals to prosecute a war is a common stance amongst most especially world powers, the West, Europe, Ukraine, Russia, and all that. And the fact that we're even seeing Ukraine coming out to accuse Wagner Group and Russia of recruiting foreign fighters from Africa begs the question if the use of mercenaries in this particular way is a violation of international law.
Well, international law is actually very vague on that, but you got your conventions, you got the Geneva Convention, etc. That we can fall back on that. But most importantly, in a South African context, we see that after 1994, after the end of apartheid, there was a huge demand for your former South African soldiers and police officers that fought in Angola and Namibia and so on. And then they actually joined your mercenary organizations, like one that actually was also active at one stage in Nigeria is Executive Outcomes. And we remember that a lot of them were deployed to Liberia with the war there and the civil war. So that prompted South Africa to actually promulgate some legislation. And in 1998, the first legislation was promulgated that actually criminalizes it for South Africans to participate as mercenaries, but also to render assistance, and even it criminalizes if you go and render your services as a medical ordinance. So that is why this is quite a serious matter for South Africa.
Now, we see these trapped citizens calling for help. Most of the men are said to be between the age of 20 and 39. And according to different conversations, it's been said that they were not actually forced. They were not coerced. It was more or less like they gave consent to want to be part of these particular events, the fight, so to speak. But then, what would you say motivates young Africans to fight in a foreign war in the first place?
Yeah, I think that is a very good question. To start off with, we saw that the reports are that President Jacob Zuma, former President Zuma, actually wrote a letter to Russia and asked him to release the people. And in the letter, he indicated that these people were promised that they're going to be trained as bodyguards, and then they were conned into becoming mercenaries. So that is what we know about that. Of course, President Ramaphosa now ordered an investigation, and that investigation will, at the end of the day, now provide more clarity. But in South Africa, and for that matter in many other countries, South Africa has got one of the highest unemployment rates at the moment. So our young people are really desperate. Where the economy is not growing, it's got a minimal growth. The prospects of these people, and now we're talking even graduates, even people that finish their university or even some postgrad studies, they go without work in South Africa, and that opens them for these scams and these people that and organizations that con them into lucrative job offers like this one now in Ukraine. But there's also another unfolding story, for instance, where there are more than 100 South Africans that have been lured to Thailand with the pretext of very lucrative job offers. And when they got there, they were actually, their passports were confiscated, and they were smuggled across the border to Myanmar, where they then were forced by the Chinese triad to do online scams for them. So they already rescued quite a few of them, but that's also an unfolding story. It just demonstrates to you how can I put it? It is the people, the urgency for people who do not get opportunities here, and they are desperate to look for opportunities then, and these people are being exploited then by these ruthless organizations, whether it's on the military or whether it's on the criminal side.
No, so aside South Africans, we see that Kenyans and nationals from other Asian nations also raised alarms about being tricked into the Russian-Ukraine war. So should there be an official international probe into this? And do you think there can be consequences that should follow if most especially either Russia or Ukraine is said to be found culpable?
Yeah, you see the challenge that we have, the only body that can really act with authority when it comes to this issue, your United Nations Security Council, and because they're the only ones that actually can adopt a resolution that is binding, where then your member countries have to abide to it. Apart from that, you've got various, you've got the General Assembly, and you've got all the other organs there. They can take resolutions, but in order to enforce those resolutions, it becomes extremely difficult. It's more or less a voluntary sort of compliance to that. The other challenge that you also have, because of the challenge with your European countries that join NATO, because Ukraine is not part of NATO, and they want to join, and then the Russians are against that. So there's a lot of challenges there. So the only way actually to actually force any of the resolutions or any of the good practices is either through sanctions that are being jointly applied by these blocs, or at the end of the day, military action.
Military action, I don't know how that will be possible, most especially as it involves Russia, Ukraine. But then I just want to quickly take it back to what you said earlier as regards South Africa's regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act 1998 actually forbids citizens from participating in foreign militaries without authorization. Now, I'm looking at it from this angle. Don't you think that these people trapped in Donbas, if they are eventually rescued, could be facing sanctions instead of actual rescue anyway?
Yeah, at the end of the day, because it's been criminalized, it will have to be investigated. So once they return, if they return safely to South Africa, they will be investigated. A case docket will be opened, and then it will go to your national prosecution authority to decide whether there is a prima facie case that they have to answer to. So that is normally or typically what will happen. But we also, if you look at the legislation, your legislation and your penalties for being found guilty on that is that at the end of the day you can have some imprisonment, or you can have a fine, or you can have both. So what we saw in the past when they actually charged people under this act, they all came back and then they went into a plea bargain with the National Prosecution Authority, and at the end of the day they paid fines and then they walked free. So that is what we anticipate is going to be, because that legislation, even though it was promulgated in 1998, it's really never been tested in court.
All right, so this is the elephant in the room, Willem. Diplomatically, South Africa and Russia are BRICS allies. And earlier on, you had said there are only two ways to it. It's either there is a sanction or there is a military intervention, so to speak. So if evidence implicates Russia in this particular scenario, what do you think Pretoria can realistically do?
Well, realistically, and that's what they already started to do, don't issue diplomatic engagement.
Thank you, Chair.
Because of what we are facing is that South Africa, being part of BRICS, they have some very good relationship with Russia, and we think that they will exploit all of that in order to face the return, because it became such a high profile case now of these people being lured there, and also the allegations that it was not above board the way that they got these people there. So we think that on a diplomatic level, of course, South Africa will try to force that. If you look at our President Ramaphosa, he is a person that prides on diplomacy, and he's a very good negotiator. So that is the first option that they will take, and he's already instructed our Foreign Affairs to engage with him. So on the other hand, also, not too long ago, the leader of Ukraine was here in South Africa, and they also seem to have a good relationship. So I think they will play it on both sides, and at the end of the day, diplomacy will be the only option for South Africa, even though we're talking about sanctions and war and so on. Those are not options for a single country like South Africa. That is more for your blocks like NATO and so on. So at the end of the day, I think that will be our only option.
All right, so, thank you so much, Willem Els, Senior Training Coordinator, ENACT Program Institute for Security Studies. It was nice talking to you at this time.
Thank you.